They told me to rest, to accept, to let go with dignity. "It's time to slow down," the doctor said gently, like he was offering me a gift instead of a sentence. But I wasn't listening, because all I could hear was music. 3/4 time, soft strings, his breath near my ear and the way he always counted under his breath. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just to keep us from stepping on each other's toes. We hadn't danced in years, not since my legs began to betray me, not since the diagnosis. Stage 4, that's how they said it. Not end, not terminal. My body hurt in places I didn't know could hurt. My lungs tightened. Food stopped tasting like anything but obligation. And for a while, I began to let go. Not because I was ready, but because I was tired. Until one afternoon and he played the song. He thought I was asleep, but I heard the first few notes from the living room, and something inside me stood up, even if I couldn't. It was our song, the same one we danced to in the kitchen during that storm in '63, the one we played on the record player at every anniversary, the one he hummed to me the night before my first surgery, holding my hand like it was the only thing keeping me on this side of the world. And in that moment, I made a decision, not to be brave, not to beat the odds, not to prove anyone wrong, but to dance with him one more time. Because the world could take my appetite, my hair, even my name. But it would not take our waltz. Not while I still had breath. Not while my hands still remembered how to fit into his. Not while the music still played. Pain changes the way you hear silence. Before the illness, silence was peaceful. The soft clink of spoons in the sink, the slow creak of the rocking chair, the pages of a book being turned beside me. But after, silence became heavy, dense, a space too large for one body to fill, especially one that couldn't stand on its own anymore. The house we'd shared for 5 decades began to feel like a museum, every room echoing with things I used to do. The garden I no longer weeded, the kitchen I couldn't stand in, the piano I hadn't touched since the tremors began in my right hand. He tried to make things normal. He adjusted the furniture so I could move more easily, put bells on the walker, learned how to cook. Not well, but enough. And every night, he still put on music. Even when I said I didn't want it, even when I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep, he would hum quietly, shuffle around the kitchen, play old records on our dusty player, as if melody could stitch together what medicine couldn't. And maybe it could, because as my body weakened, the music grew louder in my mind. I'd hear violins in the walls, piano keys in the sound of rain. His humming became my heartbeat, especially that one piece, our waltz, the one we danced to on cold floors in crowded rooms, in our pajamas, barefoot, grinning like teenagers. I began to mark time by it. Bad days, no rhythm. Better days, a faint 1, 2, 3 pulsing in the back of my mind. When treatment started, I used the waltz to breathe. Inhale on 1, hold on 2, exhale on 3. Again, again, again. The nurses thought I was meditating. They didn't know I was dancing. In my head, in memory, in promise. The world around me shrank into pill bottles, scan results, and bedpans. But in my head, I wore a blue dress that spun when he twirled me. My body didn't ache there. My lungs were strong, and he looked at me like he did on the night we got engaged, like I was something he couldn't believe was real. So when people asked how I was coping, I just smiled, because they didn't know the truth. I wasn't trying to survive. I was trying to rehearse for one more waltz, for one last spin across the floor, wrapped in his arms, alive only in that rhythm. And if I had to crawl there, I would. Because for me, the waltz wasn't a memory, it was a destination. The first time I tried to stand, I fell. Not gracefully, not symbolically, just down, like a marionette with a cut string. The pain wasn't just in the body, it was in the humiliation, the betrayal of muscle, bone, balance. I remember sitting on the cold floor, my nightgown bunched around my knees, his hands hovering, not wanting to hurt me by helping too quickly. And I said, I can't do this. He knelt beside me, not rushed, not dramatic, and said the quietest, fiercest words I've ever heard. We're not dancing yet. This is just the warm-up. That's when I cried, not from pain, but from hope, which frankly hurt more, because hope meant trying again and again and again. Every morning became a rehearsal. He would set up the living room like a ballroom, cleared the coffee table, rolled up the rug, played the same piece of music softly, gently. And every day I would stand, sometimes with help, sometimes gripping the back of a chair, sometimes shaking so hard I thought my knees would snap like twigs. But he'd be there. 1, 2, 3, he'd whisper. I'd get angry, frustrated. My body wasn't what it was. My legs burned. My breath came like wind through a broken window. But then he'd hold me, not for support, for rhythm. I didn't need a cane, I needed a partner. He led with patience, with tenderness. He never forced, never sighed when I failed, never let me feel small for needing to rest after 3 steps. Instead, he'd say, those were the most beautiful 3 steps I've ever seen. And somehow I believed him. Progress was slow. There were days I couldn't even get out of bed. Nights when I woke soaked in sweat, haunted by dreams of forgetting the steps. But still, I practiced. I hummed the melody as I brushed my teeth, tapped the rhythm on the blanket as I lay in bed, visualized the spin, the pause, the way his hands settled on the small of my back. That touch was worth every needle, every IV, every lab result that tried to convince me it was over. Because I knew if I could make it to that dance, if I could take just one turn in his arms, I could go in peace after. Not in pain, not in fear, but in music. It wasn't a grand hall. It wasn't even a polished floor, just our living room. Same creaky boards, same faded rug rolled to the side, same record player with the scratch and track 3 that always made the violin skip. But to me, it might as well have been Vienna. I'd spent 6 months preparing, 6 months learning to sit, then to stand, then to balance. 6 months reminding my body what rhythm felt like. 6 months praying not to survive, but to move again. With him. The day I told him I'm ready, he didn't speak, just nodded, tears in his eyes already shining. He put on his old navy blue jacket, the one from our 40th anniversary. It hung a little loose on him now, but he wore it like armor. I wore a simple dress, nothing grand, but it swayed when I moved. That was all I needed. He lit a single candle on the piano, not for romance, for reverence, because what we were about to do wasn't just a dance, it was a resurrection. He pressed play, the room filled with music, warm, trembling strings, the same waltz we'd danced to all our lives. He extended his hand, and for a moment I hesitated, not out of fear, but because I didn't want to rush it. I wanted to remember it, this moment, this version of us, older, slower, but still in love, still together. I stepped into his arms, my hand on his shoulder, his palm warm against my back, and we began to move. Not gracefully, not perfectly, but together. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I counted under my breath. He hummed along with the strings, and the world fell away. There was no illness, no aching joints, no doctors, no charts, no talk of time. Just his breath and the floor beneath us and the music carrying us like wings. Halfway through the song, I looked up at him. He was already watching me, like he always did. Like I was still that 22-year-old girl in heels too high for comfort, laughing too loud, spinning too fast. And in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't felt in years. Victory. Because we'd made it, not just to this moment, but through everything. Every treatment, every bad night, every time I almost gave up. We danced until the song ended. And when it did, we stood still. Chest to chest, breath against breath. I told you, I whispered. Waltz is stronger than death. He kissed my forehead. Always has been, he said. And I believed him. Because that night in that tiny room with no spotlight, we did the impossible. We danced, and in that dance I lived. They still call it a miracle. The way my body responded, the way the scans changed, the way I went from prepare for the worst to let's schedule your next follow-up. But I don't call it a miracle, I call it music. I call it love and rhythm and the stubbornness of a woman who refused to leave the floor before the last note played. The truth is I'm still sick. The disease didn't vanish. It lingers in blood work, in fatigue, in the pills I line up each morning with shaking hands. But I'm not afraid anymore. Because I did what I came to do. I danced. With him, in his arms, in the space between the final note and the silence that followed. And in that moment, I was free. Not healed, free. There's a difference. Healing is what doctors chase. Freedom is what the soul finds when it remembers who it is, even inside a broken body. And I remembered. I'm not just a patient. I'm not a diagnosis. I'm not a set of symptoms in a chart. I'm a dancer, a wife, a woman who once spun barefoot in the living room at midnight just because her favorite song came on. And now, I let myself be that again. We don't dance every night. Some days my legs ache too much. Some days I sleep through the afternoon, but the record player is always ready. The candle is still on the piano, and his jacket hangs by the door just in case. Sometimes I catch him watching me when I'm sipping tea, when I'm folding laundry. Like he's still waiting for the music to start. Like he still can't believe I came back for one more waltz. And I smile, because what he doesn't know is I didn't come back for just one. I came back for all of them, for every slow spin, for every soft laugh, for every moment we can still say, we're still dancing. Some people mark their victories with medals, photographs, certificates. I mark mine with music, because when I hear those first notes, that soft swell of strings, that familiar rhythm, my heart remembers. I came back, not from the dead, not from some shining light, but from the slow fade, the quiet giving up, the place where people stop trying because they forget why they should. But I remembered. I remembered his eyes on our wedding day. I remembered the way his hand fits mine without ever needing to look. I remembered the way we moved, even when the world felt too heavy. And that's what I danced back toward. Not youth, not health. Nelabur, tinekanan, the kind of love that waits at your side when you can't stand. That whispers left foot first when your legs forget how. That plays your song every night, just in case your soul is ready to waltz again. And maybe someone listening right now is tired. Tired in a way that runs deeper than the bones. Tired of hurting. Tired of hoping. Let me tell you something. If there's still a rhythm in your chest, still a face that makes your heart sway, even just a little, then it's not over. You don't have to spin. You don't have to leap. You just have to step. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And if this story gave you something, a memory, a reason, a spark, stay with us. Subscribe to hear more voices like mine. Like the video if it helped you feel your rhythm again. And leave a comment. Tell me who you would dance for. Someone needs to read that today. And if you missed the last story about the man who came back from clinical death just to see her eyes one more time, go listen to it next. Because maybe it's not the song that saves us. Maybe it's the person who still waits, with one hand outstretched, ready to lead.